Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we are going to learn lessons from Deadpool and Wolverine. Spoilers for Deadpool and Wolverine here. All right, it's our job to bring an epic story to the table, and in order to do that, we need to bring epic villains. Okay, now there is a lesson to be learned from Deadpool and Wolverine on how not to make a suck villain. So Deadpool and Wolverine had a terrible villain, just an absolute trash villain, extremely poorly written, poorly chosen, poorly crafted, terrible, terrible villain. A villain so bad for a narrative that it warrants a dissection of it for every dungeon master to learn how not to create a bad sucky villain. All right, so Cassandra Nova, terrible, terrible villain. All right. Now, first of all, whose fault is this? Ryan Reynolds. Okay. So if you look at this movie, this Deadpool versus Wolverine film, you could tell that Kevin Feige would just like, here's the keys to the shop, baby. There you go, Ryan. Go to town. Right. And I think the reason why is Kevin's in a lot of trouble now. Kevin Feige did the impossible, and from Iron Man 1 till Avengers Endgame, he crushed it. Right. But then it's in the title. Endgame should have ended it. Didn't have the courage. Couldn't find his two. Didn't know where they were. No courage. All cowardice at this point with Kevin Feige, and he is off the rails, man. And he's been off the rails for a while. We really haven't had a decent film. It's been very bad since Endgame, right? And the reason why is the moment Endgame hit, they should have bought back the X-Men or completely done a complete recast or completely relaunched, but telling all these stories with dead characters and characters that in a world that the story's over, right? Like start over, show a little, get some cojones and like move forward, right? But Kevin Feige was just like didn't have the courage to shake things up, and so we got all these, here's a movie about Black Widow. Didn't she just die? Yes, she did. Why should I care about this film? I don't know. And it's just been just project after project where you're like, why am I watching this? Right? Like, just a downward slope, right? And it's not me saying that. It's literally Kevin Feige saying that through Ryan Reynolds in the film. But Ryan Reynolds' fingerprints are all over this film, and I think he chose this Cassandra Nova. So why is she a terrible villain? First of all, she's psychic, right? She has telekinetics and telepathy, right? So she can read minds, she can control minds, and that's a bad villain, right? This was acceptable for Charles Xavier because his own moral code kept him in check. But like anytime you have a villain who can read people's minds and control people's minds, it's too powerful. It's too powerful, right? And it's just it's not, and you can't kill them by punching them, right? And it's just not fun. And I really feel like I loved Deadpool and Wolverine, 4 out of 5 star movie. The only reason I take a star away from it is because it shouldn't have been rated R. But this was bad. This was bad, and you could have done so many better villains. And there's literally 500. Like, I have a book at home, a DK book. It's got 500 Marvel heroes, 500 Marvel villains. There's so many villains that would have been a million times better. Doctor Doom right out of the gate, right? Like, there's a lot of fantastic, like Emma Frost when she was still evil. There's just a ton of really good villains you could have done. The other thing is, and this gets strange, but yeah, so Cassandra Nova, and the other thing is a bad copy of a good character, right? So another reason why this is just a terrible suck villain. Like, Charles Xavier is epic, right? Nobody cares about his lost sister, Cassandra Nova, right? It's a copy, and it's a copy. It's just a bad copy of a great character. Strike two, right? And then also the last thing, Cassandra Nova, bad writing of her powers. So okay, you set her up, right? She's incredibly powerful because she can read minds and she can control minds, and she has telekinetics and telepathy, right? So she takes Wolverine, shoves him underground, and drags him like 40 feet, right? Now, they give a full minute for him to heal. He pops up out of the ground and stabs her twice with his snicks, right? Stabs her right through the heart, right through the chest, right? And she's like, nope, doesn't count, right? And just like pops herself off his claw, and you're like, wait a second, she don't have regenerative powers, right? That's not on her power list at all, right? And if she has telepathy and telekinesis, there's no way she has regenerative powers, right? So in the movie, it didn't make any sense at all, right? And the reality is, Wolverine has regenerative powers. It's one of the reasons why he isn't a X-Man, he is the X-Man, right? They talk about that, right? It's a stretch to give regenerative powers to Deadpool, but it's been going on for 20 years. I can forgive it, right? But to take Charles Xavier and go, oh, she's a copy of Charles Xavier. Okay, I got you. She's super dangerous, right? I don't know why you're giving me a bad copy of a great character, but granted, right? But she doesn't. But nowhere on her power list is regeneration. It made absolutely zero sense, right? So how do you avoid this in your Dungeon Master game? First of all, first two rules: do not ever make a bad copy of a good character. And I will say, they just did this in Vecna Eve of Ruin. Asarak, and then they copied him with Rerak. That was a bad chapter, man. So don't be a lazy writer. Don't ever make a bad copy of a good character and think that's going to make a good story. It's not, okay? Also, know when enough is enough, and every villain needs to be unique. It's lazy writing to just say, oh, I need this character to have this power. What's the reason for that character to have that power? There's no reason. You suck as a writer, right? And the reality is, I think Ryan Reynolds is an incredible, he's very good at what he does from the perspective of, he understands Wolverine. He understands Deadpool, and they should have allowed his input on Deadpool. They should have cut him off everywhere else. And I really think that his hands were all over that Casandra Nova thing. And I think it's just extremely poorly written, and I do think it is the fault of, So, and then, mind control powers. Don't ever put that on the villain. It's just, it's poor talent. It's extremely poor. Like, people think it's going to work. It never works. Like, Purple Man in Jessica Jones, that show got canceled, right? Like, this is a bad idea every time. It is bad storytelling, bad visuals, lazy writing, bad, right? So one, don't be a lazy writer when you're a dungeon master, and do not ever make a bad copy of a good character and think that's going to serve as a villain. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. The important part is when I hear your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.